you heard what Coach McDonald said about maybe the pressure ease a little bit. Do you feel this a relief off your shoulders now that you're drafted, or how do you feel?
Yeah, that moment, just sitting there, I had a few ideas where I could possibly go in the draft. And then I had gotten a call after the second pick was announced. I was going to go fourth to the Rays. I didn't really tell my family. I told, I think Colby was sitting next to me. I told him, because he had seen that who had called me, and it was my advisor. He also uses. So he asked me like what was up, and I was like, I'm going at 4, because I had already talked to him before about it, and he kind of knew. So just that moment when you finally see the pick come in and you hear your name called, it's kind of just a relief, and you can't move in that moment. You're just sitting there like, wow, it finally happened, and then you get that emotion.
Is it helpful going into the World Series without that hanging over your head, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first couple hours, you get blown up on your phone, on social media, text and everything, and then obviously with media requests and everything the next couple days, and then obviously in Omaha they're going to ask some questions. But in my mind, once we practice on Thursday here and board that plane to go, I think your mind's going to be fully clear and just ready to play at that moment.
Brendan, last year after Corey got drafted, he said looking back it did probably affect, there's so much stress, so much pulling, that he didn't have the opportunity to go to Omaha. Do you feel like it has affected you a little bit the last few weeks?
I wouldn't say to a great deal. Obviously you want to do your best in that situation to give teams that may need that last second or that last moment, look at you, see if you can handle that big situation, throwing in a big game in the region or in regionals, and then a big game in super regionals to send your team to Omaha. They want to see if you perform or if anything happens, and you also try and push yourself a little more, with that goal in mind. You want to do the best for your team as well there too.
Going back over your career, high school, little league, t-ball, if you played it, were you always the best player on your team?
Yeah, growing up, I played in a smaller area with not a lot of a big talent pool, I'd guess. Even now, there's a lot of guys that are getting a lot better. I've seen in the NFL draft, Malik Hooker. He grew up. I played against him in high school basketball, and saw him play high school football. And Shatori Walker-Kimbrough, a guard at Maryland that just went high in the women's draft. It's starting to come up a lot better. And growing up, it was fairly easy, but now as you grow, you start to adapt, and you grow as a player, being around a lot better players and playing with a lot better players as you grow up.
Now, early on, when you were kind of a cut above everybody else, what challenged you? What helped you improve?
Man, I think it's just the determination and will in yourself to want to see yourself succeed. Challenging yourself in different ways, saying, do this and this at that, or try and do something a little bit different than just hitting an early fastball. Maybe you get the fastball but you don't see it as well or something, and then you work the count and you fight off some tough pitches and then still hit maybe a tough pitch in that at bat.
What was the timeline like as far as when did you get that number from the Twins and kind of decide that you were going to pass on that, and then when did the Rays come into the picture?
Really, it was from the early beginning. It was either anywhere really from 1 to 5 could be a possible pick. I think it was roughly 30 to 20 minutes before the draft started at 7. I got a call from them saying, this is what we want, or what we wanted to offer, and we had felt that we could get a better offer later on. So if the team obviously wanted to pick you at 1, I think they would have done it still. There's no hard feelings or anything. It's obviously, with the way the draft works, they get a certain amount of money to use throughout the draft, so they want to not use a significant amount early on. They want to try and save it up to use with some more key picks later on to use as some more leverage to them.
What was the conversation like on what position you would be playing for them?
I had been told that I was going to be able to do both. I don't know if they had just forgotten to mention both or whatever happened. I'm obviously not there to know what went on in the conversation with the with the Rays and the commissioner, but I was told afterwards by the Rays that they were going to let me experiment with both to start my career.
You said earlier in the year, before the season, that two of your dreams were to go to Omaha and obviously get drafted. You're doing them all in the same week. How cool is this week, or what is this week going to be like? Do you feel like?
It's just awesome. At this time, my freshman and sophomore year, we're having that final team meeting to address the overall season, and then start exit meetings, and guys are splitting ways, and now we're here for another week, possibly more, hanging out together and growing more as teammates and as guys. So I love it. I love being around these guys. They're amazing. If I could have them as brothers, I would.
This week, have you been talking to some of the seniors who were there in 2014 about what it was like, or you guys not even talked about that yet?
We've talked about it before. I mean, all the guys like Sparger, Lyman, Taylor, and Bulmer and Summers, they've all talked about it. The experience was awesome. Just what to expect and how crazy it's going to be. But we've all seen like the videos before the game of Gardner getting interviewed by ESPN and all the signings that they've done. So it's going to be fun.
Anything else for Brendan? All right.
Right.
Hey, Chad.